Boatworks today is sponsored by Total Boat and Alexial Yacht Coatings, as well as supported by the generosity from the beautiful folks over on Patreon. Thank you so much. So welcome back to the channel, everybody. Hope you all had a very fantastic and safe holidays. Now, as you can tell by the title of this, I'm finally at a point where I'm comfortable saying that this shop is finally finished. Now, in typical fashion, it always takes longer and costs more than what you think it's going to be, and this was absolutely no exception. So it's been a couple weeks since I've posted anything here online, and to be honest, I'm glad that I took that time off just so that I could just buckle down and focus strictly on getting this done. Now, overall, this entire shop project was about a year and a half in the making, and while there still is some prettying up that needs to be done, functionality-wise, it is 100% there. Now, as far as any kind of putting the lipstick on the pig kind of a deal, that's something that can easily wait until summer, next fall, even next winter. Honestly, I really don't. To me, it doesn't matter when it gets done, as long as it gets done sometime before I fall over and they stick me in the ground. So before I get back to working on the Bertram here, which is going to be getting started back up again next week, I want to go over some of the details that I did when I was finishing out this space here, just in case some of you have an upcoming project, whether it's in a garage or an actual wood shop or workshop. Some of the things I did here that you might find either helpful or interesting for your own projects. So with that said, let's just dive right in. So after getting the ceiling and the walls painted, the first thing I wanted to focus on was getting all the lights hooked up. Now for the lighting package in here, I went with the same company that I use out in the main bay, which is American Green Lights. And they are an American-based company that manufactures high output, high CRI LED lights. Now you may be asking, what does CRI mean? Well, that's the term that's used when you're talking about lighting to ensure that your skin color looks accurate, the colors look accurate, everything is just nice and crisp, there isn't any dullness across the color spectrum. And start to finish, the process of working through this is actually quite interesting. Now the first thing that they're going to ask for is they're going to want a footprint, so they need to know their length and width, as well as the ceiling height and the location of certain items, whether it's going to be where your cars are going to be parked, or workbenches, or in my case, where my tools are going to be laid out. So after you send this information off to them, they do a bunch of different simulations or renderings, usually using different lighting positions and different types of lights, to show you where the hot spots are, where you are potentially going to be getting some shadows, and they just kind of tinker around with it until they get what's going to be the most uniform and consistent lighting, basically side to side and top to bottom. So my ceiling height in this edition is a little over 8 feet, like 8'4", give or take. And I think it's because of that, they spec'd out a different type of lighting package in here compared to what we use out in the main shop. Now as a comparison, the main shop, the ceiling height in there is about 16, I think a little over 16 feet tall. And each of the light fixtures there had either 4, 5, or 6 individual LED strips in each housing fixture. And then the main difference was that it also contained an onboard power supply or converter, taking it from AC to DC. And for in here, because the ceiling height is a lot lower, we're just dealing with individual strips. But the main difference for me, I guess trying to figure out, was that there is no onboard power supply. Instead, there were 3 separate power packs that these lights had to be tied into in groups of 10. Now, each of these individual LED strips are 24 watts, and each of these power supplies are 240 watt supplies. So each power pack or supply, converter thing, whatever they're called, they each needed to power 10 lights. And it took me a little bit of time to figure out how to actually group these lights in groups of 10 so that the wiring didn't look like just a giant hot mess. But as far as making the individual connections to each of these LED strips, that actually went very, very smooth. The number 10 light, in each group of 10, the last light got connected using simple butt connectors just to terminate that run. And then those butt connectors were anchored to the ceiling just so that it removed any stress or potential stress from making the other connections pulling on those soldering joints at the end of the LED strips. And as far as all the other lights that were in that run, they were connected using what are called these Scotch light connectors, or I always called them vampire clips. But one thing I want to notice here, I'm going to pause the video. I have 2 different kinds, obviously. You can see one's made with 3M, and the other one are those GB brands. And just real quick, the way that these work, you've got your positive and your negative coming off of these converter power supply pack things. And so each one of these clips onto either the positive or the negative, and then it's got a second port on there where you can pigtail from that and tie that directly to the light. It's a pretty slick process when it works. Now you notice I had 2 different brands of these vampire clips. I had the 3M and then the GB brand. And here I thought I was going to be clever because I've got 3 circuits or 3 groups of 10 lights. I wanted to be able to know which power pack was supplying which 10 lights, just in case I had an issue down the road. At least I knew which power pack to kind of focus on. So I did the first power pack in red using a 3M. I did the second group of 10 on power pack number 2 using those blue GB, and then the third was going to be switching back over to the 3M red clips. Well, come to find out, the 3M clips, they had a 100% success rate. The blue GB clips, they had a 70% failure rate, which means after I went back and I flipped on all the lights, only 3 of the 10 lights actually lit up. So I had to go back and redo that entire process all over again using the red clips. And then by that time, so everything is now all red clips, which kind of defeats the purpose of what I wanted going into it. But oh well, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, this is the results. The lighting in here is absolutely amazing. It's spot on. I mean, there's no shadows on the floor. The color of everything is dead on. I mean, this is natural, full sun, broad daylight light. It's absolutely amazing. It's not too bright, but it's definitely bright enough. It's just I couldn't have gone with a better lighting package. So American Green Lights, specifically Jim Uno, thank you very much for putting this all together for me. So with the lights done, and after a 3-day cleanup after a big storm that rolled through here that dumped damn near 4 feet of snow on us and 50, 60 mile an hour winds, I know a lot of us kind of got whacked by that storm, but at that point it was time to do a cleanup and just burn a bunch of garbage and switch gears. So you start working on the electrical, getting all the conduit run, pulling wires, and then the last part that actually took me quite a while to figure out was how in the world I've got this big air unit that I want to have in here. How in the hell I was going to get that up on the wall? It's almost 400 pounds. So after about 6 months of basically talking to everybody that I knew, looking around online, calling all the rental places, trying to find one of these little genie lifts, it turns out my HVAC guy that's been, that's doing the heat for this building, he's got an old school one that worked fantastic. It's a tank, it's a metric ton weight-wise, but it worked absolutely beautifully. Now, I only had a small window of time that I could actually use this, so, whatever, kind of switch gears last minute and just get her done. So now the air scrubber that I put in here, it's a 3000 CFM air scrubber made by Industrial Made. That's MAID. And this is the same unit that I put out in the main building. I put 2 of them out there. Now this particular unit in this space is a little bit overkill. I mean, this thing is scrubbing 2500 to 3000 CFM per minute. And so that means that the inside of this wood area, this wood shop, in theory, 100% of the air in here should be scrubbed and cleaned about every minute and a half, give or take. Now, as far as the types of filters that are in here, you've got those blue, I think they look a little goofy, but you got your main particulate filters, large dust particles. There's another kind of more of like a furnace type filter, and then you've got a HEPA filter. Finally, like an 8-pound charcoal filter, and that's what takes out your VOCs if there's any finishing going on here. And then lastly, and I believe it's called an ionizer to kill any little critters that might be floating around the air and want to make us sick. Now, I realize that may be a little bit over the top, but with everything that was going on at the time when I purchased this, it seemed to make a lot of sense. But I'll be honest, the main reason that I put something like this, in the wood shop here is because my girls, specifically my oldest, she's showing a lot of interest in wanting to come up to the shop, hang out with me, and learn how to do woodworking. And if that's going to be the case, with what I've got going on in the main shop, I try to keep that as clean as I can, but this is the space where they would actually be hanging out. I want this to be as whistle clean as possible. I want it to be very safe and just not to have any kind of concerns in the back of my head as far as, should they really even be up here? Now, this eliminates all of that. So now, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this overall project between the main building and getting this addition done, this has been a 1.5 year long deal. And I can finally say everything now is 100% finished. Now, there's still some cleanup to do and, whatever. But that's something I can pick away with. Right now, everything is 100% operational, it's functional, and it's good to go. So what that means? Well, it's time to get back to this. So as always, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it interesting. And if you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you in advance. If you have any questions, comments on anything that I've shown in this video, please leave those down below and I will do my best to follow up with you. And as always, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend and I will see you next Sunday when we're stinking up the joint.
This has been a Boatworks Today production.